Hey, Sasha, the options coach. In today's video, I want to share with you some insight on 10% stop for at the money options. Can that be right? Is that where you should stop out? So that's kind of the question for today. That's what somebody here in the Facebook group, in one of the groups I kind of check out and look at, copied this question here, and I said, you know what, that's not a bad question to make a video on. So is a 10% trailing stop right for near money options like SPY, QQQ? Is that kind of right? If not, what do others use? So first off, the question doesn't state if they're kind of buying or selling, or if they're doing vertical spreads or those kinds of things. I'm going to assume they are buying single options. That is the first thing. It could also be buying at the money vertical spreads. So the reason I'm assuming this is because there's not a lot of context in that, and this is what most people do from a commonality perspective. Anyways, with that being said, this is a question I found there online, and I thought I'd make a video on it. So if you're interested in joining kind of our Facebook group, we answer a lot of things in there. There's also a lot of other good content on there that I'll find and answer questions on. So feel free to join. There's going to be a link down below. Anyway, let's take a look at this idea and premise of buying a single options, especially for like things like QQQ or SPY. So I will say, in most cases, if you're doing an at the money option spread or near at the money, it also doesn't say how many days here. I will say those options, what you're really doing is, especially if you're doing like a call option spread, because again, that's what most people do, is a call instead of a put, because that's what they learn. But let's say we're going about 11 days out. When you're doing something like this, most of the time, I will say 10% stop is going to be what? A 10% based on the move, or 10% kind of on the value. And with these options, what happens is they decay quickly. They decay, in fact, so quickly that you could have a stop in there, but you're going to burn yourself quite heavily, that they need wiggle room. So let's say I buy this option, and I'm just, well, I could just click it here and then right click, and you can analyze the trade. So now we've got one QQQ option in here. So if you've got $584 on the spread, for it to lose $58, right? That's a 10% stop. So 584 for the call, not the spread, but for the call. For me to lose $58, it's going to happen within about 2 days, because the theta is 28. So even if it just stands still for like 2 days, 1, 2, you're down about 40 bucks, maybe 3 days, you're already down a bunch of money. And that's a multi-day option. That's not even a 0-day, 5-day, 2-day, that kind of thing. So you're already down most of that 10%. So I will say that stop is very tight. You're going to get stopped out probably more times than, wins. Now, when it does move in your favor, it will move fast and quick, and that will be nice, but you'll actually get stopped out so much. These things, when I buy them, I actually look for them to die out completely. And I am okay with taking the full $584 loss, to be honest with you, in many cases. Not all the time, but in many cases. Because when you set up a spread like this, what you're doing is you're buying 100 shares of stock and you're buying a put, because that's the most you can lose. That's what a call is. And when you do something like this, is you got to be comfortable with the full max loss. And you're saying, well, I can't take the full max loss. Well, then don't do that spread. Don't do that. Don't do that trade. You're doing a trade that's too big for your account value, or what you can do. So then go into something cheaper. Like here's a forward. And go maybe further out in time, like let's say 32 days. And now you can buy an at the money one that's not 500 and some dollars. So now you've got here a single contract that will go right there at the money. And now I can actually be comfortable with the trade going against me, and it's only going to cost me 35 bucks. Now, yes, if it moves, I only make like 30 bucks, but hey, make 30 bucks to risk 30 bucks. That's actually not too bad. But what happens is people go with these big stocks. They think that I need a stop in place, or they want to stop in place. And now they've got trouble and problems, because they're going to get stopped out a lot sooner and faster. Whereas if you do something that's more in your wheelhouse, you can actually let it wiggle, and that stock might come back down to, losing a lot of that value. And then it could whip back up and you'd be just fine. So I will say in many of those cases, if you're doing stuff like this, you'll get stopped out a lot, especially at the money. You've got a lot of decay. It's going to burn through that quickly. And if you use a 10% stop, you're really just sitting by the screen watching these things. So that's usually not enough. At the professional level, you could say, hey, well, we could do an at the money vertical. So let's say we do that, because again, it didn't state the type of thing, but this is getting a little more complicated for most people. So let's say we're doing kind of an at the money vertical. This isn't a perfect at the money vertical. It's kind of a little bit, well, let's try to make it a little more sweeter. $2 wide, $1.13. We're probably overpaying a little bit here. Let's go to like 443 and 445, $2 wide, maybe. Nice standard vertical. Now you're risking about 100 to make about 92. So risk 100, make 100. This is a little more, call it favorable. And doing these again, also, you'd be comfortable with letting it go fully against you, because, well, the most you could lose is about 100, and the most you'll make is about 100. You just need that stock to go a little higher, and then you're out. So again, you got to be comfortable with the full max loss. Now, how else can we dissect this? So let's say you do want to go back to singles. Maybe verticals are too tough for you. I don't know. Everybody's a little different. Well, you've got this thing. You've got this single option, but you got this decay. Well, how can I tweak that decay problem? Well, if this is a May 24th, okay, we'll go to May 24th. What I can do is also go in and sell something against it to kind of mitigate that decay. So this is $584. Well, what I could do is do maybe 2 of these and sell 2 puts against that 1 call. And now what that will do is create a spread like this, where if it does stand still, now I actually don't lose anything. I kind of make $14 at expiration. So you can see right there at that bottom corner, I make $14 if it kind of flatlines. Now, yes, it might pull back and then I'm down a bit of money. And then later as it expires, you only lose $14. But this is a smarter approach to trading, because now you've negated that theta risk or problem. But this is not what most people will think about. So my point being is that going back to this original question, is a 10% trailing stop right for near the money options? It depends. I mean, it depends on the construction, but I will say if you're asking this question, it also means you're not understanding the way options work and behave, because that's much more important, because then you can fine tune those things where you could actually let those things die out and expire and be completely dead, and not have issues or problems with them. Whereas if you're trying to stop out, that's where a lot of people get in trouble, because then you're constantly, hey, I'm stopping out, I'm stopping out, I'm stopping out. Now you've got like 3 or 4 or 5 or 7 losses. Whereas in fact, sometimes they pull back and then they snap and whip, and you would have actually been profitable. So anyways, some things to think about, but again, doesn't answer the question of how many days out. Are you peeling things off into strength, and are you doing a vertical or just buying a single options? But assumptions there were made, so I'm assuming buying single options, because that's what most people do, and we did it on the call side. So anyways, I hope that helps, gives you a little insight. Definitely check out some of the freebies I have down below. You could join our Facebook group as well. There's lots of great content there that I'm slowly posting with time. And you can also check out the mentoring and group thing that we do coming up here in the fall. So anyways, thanks again, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.